Hi everyone, welcome to the IoT Hero Show, my weekly showcase of thought leadership in the Internet of Things. My name is Tom Raftery, I'm the Global IoT Evangelist for SAP, and now, on with the show. Hi everyone, welcome to the IoT Hero Show. My name is Tom Raftery, I'm VP and Global IoT Evangelist for SAP, and with me on the show today I have Laurens Eckelboom. Laurens, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, Tom, and pleasure to be here. My name is Laurens Eckelboom, and I'm VP and Head of Business Development for the SAP Vehicles Network and Connected Vehicles, working in Palo Alto, California.
Okay, super. So, Laurens, what is a vehicles network? Because we all know what vehicles are and we all know what networks are, but what's a vehicles network?
That's a great question, and actually, SAP Vehicles Network is more like a marketplace around vehicle and mobility-centric services with a focus on the B2B side of it. So what we're trying to do is connect, on the one hand side, supply, vehicle and mobility-centric supply focused on parking, fueling, and location-based services. We aggregate aggregators in that space. We try to standardize those business transactions and utilize a set of standard APIs to offer that aggregated inventory to the demand side of the marketplace, which are sales channels, and sales channels could be, vehicle manufacturers, could be aftermarket providers, insurance companies, etc., with a large consumer base. That is in a nutshell what we do.
Okay, so, and this is all delivered, the reason we're talking is because this is all delivered using IoT technologies, and so
absolutely.
It being the IoT Hero Show, I said I better bring it back to that. But, so there are many actors involved in this, Laurens.
Absolutely. There are many actors, there are many stakeholders that we bring together, and again, that is the power of SAP Vehicles Network, and yes, it's powered by SAP HANA Cloud Platform, let's emphasize that. But what we're trying to do is that we create an ecosystem where we not only combine supply and demand, where we bring, not only content but transactionable content together and offer that to a large ecosystem of companies that have access to large consumers bases. But we also try to come up with, new cross-pollination for data, new business models, new revenue streams. All because the more the marketplace is growing, the more the network is growing, the more the stakeholders are benefiting from it.
Okay, and this is an unusual model, I think, because if we think about IoT and vehicles, people immediately think of maybe something like smart parking. But what the vehicles network is it's much, much bigger than that, because if my understanding is correct, SAP is kind of standing in the middle of all kinds of vendors of services for vehicles. So it's a much, much bigger play. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, and you hit the nail on the head. If you look at it more holistically, then of course we are part of the SAP Leonardo family, IoT family of brands within SAP. And if you look at the value proposition around connected vehicles, then we have 4 activities that we can identify. And SAP Vehicles Network is only one of those 4 activities. But if we look at it more broad, then we are providing vehicle insights, more like fleet and B2B telematic solutions to a broad range of customers. Not only data gathering, but also analysis and predictions that are associated with it, which is of course fascinating and a very rapidly growing activity within SAP. The second activity that we do under the connected vehicles branch is ride sharing under the To-Go brand. Ride sharing to provide an economically friendly, more sustainable solution to companies to organize ride sharing initiatives that they have, and also associate that with all kind of incentives around ride sharing. Then the third activity is, as we discussed, the SAP Vehicles Network, which is a B2B marketplace around vehicle and mobility-centric services. And last but not least, we are also providing SAP Connected Parking which is a standalone kiosk based on HANA Cloud Platform that is absolutely paperless, has the capability of being operated remotely in a new revolutionary design, very simple and very easy to maintain and to operate. And again, 100% based on our cloud platform.
Okay, so just talking that one for a second, because that one's very easy to grok, the connected parking. Who would be typical customers for that?
So, as you know, SAP is a software company, and a kiosk is hardware, right? So for us, this is an outbound OEM solution where we will provide or are providing the IP of the hardware to what we call newcos, companies that will take over the design, the assembly, and distribution, and install it at their customers' inventory. And then you need to think about parking operators, the large operators in America, but also think about other use cases such as airports. Think about potentially municipalities, real estate companies, and other type of locations where you could use the unattended kiosk in a various way of use cases.
Okay, and this, I presume, obviously then connects back into the vehicle network as well. So you could have the two of them wired up together for all intents and purposes.
Absolutely. The beauty of is that the kiosk is part of opening up a lot of parking inventory that today is not accessible, that is not online accessible. So with the kiosk, we're putting these offline locations on the grid. We make them available to reserve, to book, to pay, and that obviously benefits the whole ecosystem of SAP Vehicles Network, because all the consumers now have a broader choice of parking inventory to go to in a seamless and frictionless way.
Okay, and how long has the parking net, or not the parking network? Sorry, how long has the vehicles network been in operation?
It's pretty new. We launched the SAP Vehicles Network in America in October 2015, and in Europe in November 2015. So we're a good 1.5 years on the way. But it's exciting to see the growth. It's exciting to see the development, and so we could not be happier with the direction that we're going to today.
Okay, and in terms of, do you call them customers or do you call them partners? People who are using the network, who interesting is on the network that we can work with?
So we have two roles basically on the SAP Vehicles Network. On the first of all, on the supply side, every marketplace has a supply and demand. On the supply side, we are working with companies that have access to a large inventory of parking spaces, and those parking spaces are online available. So that means that you could online or mobile interact with these spaces. We call that POPs, point of purchase, which is different than POIs, which is only static information. So we work with the market leaders for on and off-street parking, where we have the availability of their complete inventory. And by bundling that inventory, now suddenly through one API connection, you have access to all this aggregated inventory, to these millions of parking spots, without the need to sign up individually for these operators. And we do the same for fueling. The second activity within the marketplace is fueling, cashless fueling, where we could tie in a navigation experience towards a fuel station with a identification use case through the head unit or the car or through any companion app that through the cloud directly interacts with the transaction handler software, so we can activate the right fuel pump so that you don't pay for the wrong fuel for somebody in front of you.
It's important.
That's of course very important. And we do the payment authentication and authorization through the cloud. And so if all these elements are coming together, then the fuel pump will change its display, saying, hey, I'm ready. So the only thing you still need to do, we're working on that as well, but you still have to get out of your car and put that nozzle in the gas tank, and then that's it.
It's not going to fuel itself.
Yeah, that would be nice, right? And we can tie that experience also into, a business use case where if it would be a business trip, you could also tie that into Concur for your trip reporting.
Okay, so You pull up to the fuel pump, you fill the car, you then have a reserved parking space, you pull up to that, and at the end of the day, the parking billing and the fuel billing all appear in your expenses report automatically.
Exactly.
Or automagically, maybe we should say.
I like that better.
Interesting. So this obviously is great for business users. Is there a consumer aspect to it, or is it all business to business?
No, there is a huge consumer aspect to it. As I said prior in our conversation, we are looking for the demand side within the marketplace for consumer-facing companies. And we identify basically 4 tiers. One tier is, of course, the vehicle OEMs, where we are looking for direct integration in the head unit combined with a companion app. A second tier would be rental car companies, where we interact with their user base. A third one would be aftermarket, where we work with dongle telcos with an OBD2 solution and a companion app that interacts with the car. And the fourth use case is, of course, a app that is out there, whether it's an insurance app or an existing parking app, or maybe it's a city-specific app where we can add location and relevant services around parking and fueling into that app. So those are the use cases that we have. And then, segueing more towards your question, these services can be consumed by consumers, by a BMW driver, by a Mercedes driver that wants to access parking. But of course, there are also more like business use cases available that are basically comparable as a consumer use case. But by tying it into Concur, you can suddenly create a whole business use case scenario where trip reporting and expense claim management is also integrated. I hope that makes sense.
It does, and nobody likes doing expenses, so any way you can make that easier for us is much appreciated.
I feel your pain.
You mentioned insurance. What would be the use case for the insurance industry? So
insurance companies are realizing that their main channel of interaction is more and more mobile. They segue from people towards online, web, towards mobile. And so to that end, they are adding more and more functionality into mobile apps. And that functionality goes further and further than, a regular insight in your policy. There is now also a way to apply for a insurance policy, whether it's car or vehicle or house or, associated insurance products. But also now they are looking how can they increase interaction with their app, how can they become more relevant and have people interact more than twice a year, which is typically the renewal cyclus of insurance, to a more like weekly or even daily interaction. And to that end, if you would add things like parking or fueling services to that app, suddenly the interaction with that app is becoming more repetitive and more frequently. And by doing that, they are adding more relevance and stickiness to their app. And that is what they're looking for. They're looking for a more like, almost like a kind of a mobility value proposition to their end users, that their app is their companion for more daily use cases.
Okay, interesting, nice. We've covered a lot about it. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, there's a couple of things that I think are really exciting, and that is, for instance, the Hertz, Nokia, Concur, and SAP showcase at MWC 2017. Because I think that what is really interesting about SAP Vehicles Network is also that we can bring multiple large companies together and create new innovative use cases, not necessarily by coming up with new technology, but by bundling the individual value propositions and create a whole new use case scenario that also provides a more delightful user experience and more relevance and stickiness towards individual apps or individual companies. So what we did in the Hertz case was that we used the Hertz mobile app as a front end and added additional solutions to it that would go way further than your rental car experience. So to that end, the app during the Mobile World Congress did not only enable you to, the moment you enter a rental car facility, to select the car and do your regular rental car management steps, such as looking at the agreement, adding fuel services to it, maybe increase the insurance. But after those steps, the use case was that that app interacted with the vehicle through the cloud. So, I'm a tall guy, 6'4". I used to be 6'5", but it's 6'4" these days. And so if I step into a car, through the cloud, the car recognizes me as Laurens, 6'4", so the seats would go backwards. It recognized that I like 90s music better than today's music, so the radio would tune on 90s music. The app could behave like a keyless access point. So I could pop the trunk, I could open up the car, and there the keys of the vehicle would be available, and I could actually start the car. So that would be one of the examples. But then we're going to convert that car into a mobile wallet, a wallet on wheels, by opening up the SAP Vehicles Network parking and fueling inventory, having the ability to push navigation from that transaction to the head unit of the car. And then when you are at your point of interaction, whether that's a parking garage or whether that's a fuel pump, there is an interaction through the cloud with that hardware. And by adding the component of Concur to this whole use case scenario, we suddenly create a whole business scenario. And that is also, I think, one of the unique things that we do, is that we bring IoT also to business processes. And that's, of course, our strength within SAP. And that is something unique, and we are very proud of that. And so everybody's benefiting from it. It's not only the user, the business traveler that has a delightful experience, but also these transactions through the cloud, through the real world, are coming back into one of the core things that we do, business processes.
Okay, and that announcement at Mobile World Congress with Nokia and Hertz, is that available now to Hertz users, or is it something that's going to be rolled out over the next however many months or years?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that of course is not available today. It was a showcase, but it says something about innovation and roadmap ahead. So rest assured that in the future, many of these elements will become available within not only the Hertz app, but also in other comparable use case scenarios. And another example that I would love to give to you is with Mojo. Mojo is a aftermarket solution. It's actually a connected car platform for T-Mobile in the US and Deutsche Telekom in Europe. And here the Mojo team decided to add SAP Vehicles services, Vehicles Network services around parking and fueling to their current use case, which is focused around basic telematics, and navigation and issue management capabilities. And the unique thing is that they have access to a large target audience of T-Mobile customers in the US, and with a distribution network of T-Mobile stores in the US. So here you will see that hundreds of thousands of T-Mobile users and T-Mobile customers have now the ability in the next couple of months to start interacting not only with Mojo's key and core competence, but also with transactions, paying for parking, starting to pay for fueling. And this is all about the network. Now you see that the transactions are starting to come in, and now we also start to learn about behavior and other elements. And that is very exciting. We could not be more happy about that.
Wow, fantastic. Great. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the show, Laurens, running out of time. Just for people who are interested, what else is coming down the line with the vehicles network that you'd like to tell people about?
I think that, and that's a great question, there's a couple of things that we're working on. Besides the parking and fueling scenario, we are focusing now on location-based services around parking and fueling. And we feel that parking is never a destination, but it would be great that the moment you've parked, you could get a cup of coffee with a participating Starbucks around the corner, or maybe a second bagel. And the same for fueling. of course, I think the optimal use case scenario at a fuel station is that while you're getting gas, you're gonna buy something at the convenience store, whether that's a free Coke or and we can tie that into your trip. We can also segment and fine tune that based on the time of the day. We could tie it into how long you've been driving. So there are all kind of deeper detail scenarios available. And after those services that I described, we will continue to add new vehicle and mobility centric services to the marketplace. Think about, I think in the near future, insurance related services, roadside assistance related services, but also think about maintenance, service, maybe in the future even multi-modeling, because again, we also go to that direction. So it's exciting and there's a lot coming.
Fantastic. Great. Laurens, if people want to know more about you or about the vehicle network or any of these things, where should they go?
Go to sap.com and look for SAP Vehicles Network. We have a nice website with more examples, more information, and the other way to reach out is send an email to laurens.eckelboom@sap.com, and I'm happy to answer any question that you may have.
Fantastic. Laurens, that's been great. Thanks a million for joining us on the show today.
Thanks so much, Tom. I appreciate the opportunity.